Hello! Teacher Ray here. I'm back to respond to another Hot Whoa group class teaching question. Yay! In this episode, I'm going to talk about talking. Here's the question. In class, I feel like I do the majority of the talking. How do I get the students to speak more? Student talk time. All of the experts on teaching a second or foreign language seem to agree and advise that students learn best when they are doing the majority of the talking, like 70 to 80% of the talking. Sounds impossible, doesn't it? But it isn't. In fact, it is definitely possible. First, except maybe in level 0 or when you're introducing the vocabulary pronunciation, your students should be reading practically everything written in the lessons. The vocabulary sentences, the activity prompts, the grammar explanations, the questions, every single piece of text. Teacher talk should be limited to things that enhance the lesson, such as guided questions to help a student discover an answer. Personalized questions based on your knowledge of the student, or verbal feedback for student successes and accomplishments. A teacher's real job is to facilitate or guide student learning. What this means is that you should never directly tell a student what something means. Instead, elicit the meaning from them. This means you want to get the student to discover or provide the meaning themselves. This can be done using the lesson images, examples, or questioning that lead a student to the correct conclusion. If a student asks you a direct question about the lesson objectives, try asking a classmate to chime in with their opinion before answering yourself. Many times you can avoid answering altogether. Incorporate a lot of that peer-to-peer learning, such as pair or group work, so that your students can help each other when someone is struggling with the answers. Speaking of answers, you should avoid providing them yourself. Instead, allow classmates to help, ask leading questions, or even jump back into the lesson to allow your students to locate the answer on the corresponding page. When you have an odd number of students, don't assign a role play character to yourself. Instead, rotate the student roles in a way that gives everyone an equal opportunity to participate. Or have the odd student out ask or answer a question based on the role play. Don't repeat after your students unless you're doing so to model a correction. First, your students might think you're correcting them for something. Second, it's wasted teacher talk time. Let your students speak for themselves. Oh, pronunciation practice counts as student talking time too. So have your students perform some group pronunciation drills for the vocabulary objectives. By this, I mean repeating the word or phrase in sets of 3. With younger students, include numerous repetitions of these mini drills in a variety of ways. Funny voices, shouting, whispering, singing, incorporating movements, etc. These mini drills can also be used throughout the lesson when multiple students are struggling with a particular word or phrase. They make great error correction techniques. I always do these mini drills as a group. In fact, I do all pronunciation practice as a group. Avoid using yes or no questions, or at least avoid stopping at yes or no questions. For example, if you start out by asking your students if they have ever visited the Great Wall of China, you could go on by asking when. Or if they haven't, do they want to? If yes, When do they think they will go? If no, why not? Open-ended questions like these provide more opportunities for your students to talk and to think more carefully about the topic. Last but not least, don't fall into the trap of feeling like you need to fill up the silence. Instead, let those silences grow a little to give your students the opportunity of filling them in. Besides, sometimes your students just need a little extra time to think and to formulate their response before speaking out loud. Okay, everyone, it's time for wrap-up! To sum things up, getting your students to speak more requires you, the teacher, to speak less, and to provide your students with the opportunities to speak more through reading, questioning, and peer-to-peer learning. Student talk time, or getting students to speak more, is something that every How GC teacher strives for. So I want to thank this teacher for submitting a question that is so meaningful to us all. Do you have a meaningful question? Click on the survey link to Ask Teacher Ray. See you next time. Goodbye. But it isn't. In fact, it is definitely possible. A teacher's real job is, facilitate. Don't repeat after your students. Don't repeat after your students. Don't repeat after your students. Oh no! Avoid the use of yes or no questions. Okay, everyone, it's time for wrap-up. Ow! Shoot. Retake.